this is Lula at the G7, and Lula have been wanting to meet with Zelensky. There have been liberal calls for Xi Jinping to meet with Zelensky, but it's clear that Zelensky does not want peace whatsoever, and it shows with his meltdown at the G7. This is Lula. He spoke at the G7 about the need for peace in the world, especially in Ukraine. Lula says while the North wants war, the South is seeking peace. The global South is seeking peace. So I'm gonna play the video first, and I'm gonna get to the part where Lula essentially announces the Ukrainian peace model. And Zelensky is not happy at what Lula is saying here. It's glorious. I'm gonna get to that here. So let's watch the first.
O que eu sinto é que nem o Putin nem o Zelensky estão falando com paz nesse momento.
I'll read it for people who are only listening. He said, what I feel is that neither Putin nor Zelensky are talking about peace right now. It seems like both of them think that somebody will win, and there is no need to talk about peace. I'm convinced that if there is no discussions around peace, this war could be a very long one. I think it's essential that we avoid that people continue to die. That's the same thing Trump said at the town hall, isn't it? Liberals want it down. How dare you say you want people to stop dying? Anyway, that's what Lula says. Not Bernie Sanders. We can't get Bernie Sanders AOC to say this. Let's continue. I think it's essential that we continue to avoid that people die. Only peace will achieve that. But peace is only possible if both sides want it. At the moment when necessary to meet with Zelensky and then meet with Putin, I have no problems in traveling to Ukraine and to Russia. But for now, from what I heard from our representative, it's not possible right now. So we need to see when one of them will want to discuss peace. Yesterday, you listened to the speech of President Biden. He doesn't speak about peace. There's Lula calling out President Biden for his failure to advocate for peace. Once again, I gotta look at the global South. Gotta look to other continents, other leftists, instead of Bernie Sanders and progressives saying this. I would love to see what Voss's criticism of people like Lula. You have AOC, the Voss left. They were like, oh my God, Lula won. Yes, Lula. Look at me. I'm cool. I know socialist stuff. I know anti-imperialist stuff. They don't know anything about Lula and his politics. Clearly. He just renounced your entire foreign policy. Are you going to address that? Anyway, let's continue. He says that Russia needs to back off. I don't know if Russia will abandon its plan. I think it's necessary to have people that are willing to build an exit to find peace. There's a group of countries from the global South that want to find peace, which is something the global North is not being able to do. So there is a side that wants peace and a side that wants war. I hope the side that wants peace is the one that is victorious at the end of this. And notice that he called Biden out by name as being as one of the agents that don't want peace. Rome, anything you want to add? I got a few more parts of the story. I won't give you anything you want to add real quick.
I mean, he's correct, you know, and I wish what he know, he just explained it, it's gonna be harder than what it is right now to actually sit these people down and talk peace. Zelensky making lots of fucking money. He is gaining nothing but power in his country since he has taken office and kicked out opposition parties and anybody that opposes his power, you know. So I don't see a man being that high on power right now, you know, riding that horse. Pun intended, riding a high horse, giving up so much power that he gained so quickly, so freely. And I don't even think that it's up to Zelensky at this point, because, you know, if it was really just a war between Ukraine and Russia, this would have been over, you know. And this is like the big criticism from NATO left or whatever. Oh, well, Russia taking a year to fight Ukraine, but like, no, Russia is fighting the whole West collectively, you know, like
you literally have Western leaders, Rome. Western leaders literally said if we stop supporting Ukraine, that they will fall within days.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means that nigga, there's been a war with NATO in the West.
Like this is why I'm like, I wish peace was possible, but with people, it always comes back to the U.S., man, because everything that the U.S. like we funding all the bullshit we doing all this bullshit across the world, and it always gonna come back to us and our leaders. The shit that our leaders is passing, the bills that our leaders is passing, is making this war stay on this long. You know, they keep sending weapons. Now they're trying to get air support out there. You know, I think something's gonna have to happen in the West or the U.S. in order for the war to stop, in order for people to find peace. Because when you have enemies at your negotiation tables, I don't think you can ever find peace. You know, because they always whisper in somebody else's ear.
Yeah, well said, Rome. I'm gonna show you guys some more of what Zelensky said. I'm gonna mute your mic because there's a little bit of echo, Rome, if you don't mind. This is what Lula also said. You have the Chinese peace proposal, which makes the most sense, which most people support. African leaders support the Chinese peace proposal. The Chinese peace proposal is very, very simple. Respect the sovereignty of each individual country and respect referendums as well. So you have areas of Eastern Ukraine, the Donbass, that will be independent because that is what their people want, to the tune of around 80 to 90%. The Chinese peace proposal also calls for Ukraine to recognize Crimea as Russia because Crimea voted for a referendum around not 70 to 80% to be part of Russia. There's no legitimate claim for Ukraine to have Crimea. So Ukraine is deeply unserious because Rome, one of their calls for negotiations is that Russia must seize and they must hand over Crimea. Bruh, y'all know that's not gonna fucking happen. So Ukraine, as Zelensky says, Russia must completely pull out of Ukraine and they must give up Crimea. And then we be willing to talk. Then we'll talk, Rome. Rome, give me your house. Rome, give me your house. Write me a check, and then maybe we can negotiate. That's what Zelensky's saying.
They know they're coming in bad faith because this is just for the naysayers or the people that's on their side. I should say, but don't want war. They want them to seek peace now because they see the numbers that they are losing. Like, let's be real, you know, like not even the troll farms can cover up all that fucking losing. They have been quiet on Twitter lately, you know.
Bro,
but they're not like how they used to be. But it's people out there that actually want peace. Well, this is just smoke and mirrors for like, look, we're trying. Russia is being Russia. They're being aggressive. You know, they don't want to come to terms with us. They don't want to give us their fucking land. Like, come on, man.
Look at what Lula said here. Because Lula respond to the Ukraine peace proposal. This is the title, the main story. It said Lula says the Ukraine peace proposal, which includes a demand. Hold on, let me. Can you mute yourself, Rome? Do you mind?
Sorry.
Yeah. Just so you can speak whenever you're ready. Lula says Ukraine's peace proposal, which includes a demand for Moscow to withdraw all the troops and for Ukraine's full territorial integrity to be restored, amounts to Russia's surrender. So Lula says, you guys are unrealistic. You guys are essentially calling for Russia to completely surrender when they have no reason to. They're not realistic. And Lula says that's ridiculous. This is Lula renouncing the Ukraine peace proposal. And also, when you translate this article, because I read through the translation of this article, when you get the full quote, a lot of this led to Zelensky ghosting Lula at the G7. So, and this led to Lula like, all right, gloves off. And he came out with a statement later that said, I want peace, but there's not going to be peace because Zelensky doesn't want peace. Rome, Lula, despite all our criticism of him, right, is putting Zelensky on blast in the way that Bernie Sanders and the left should be doing in our country. So Lula and Zelensky is having a beef right now.
But you see, the difference is Bernie Sanders and AOC, now they benefit from these wars. You know, their people, their clique, they benefit off of these wars financially and, you know what I'm saying, by the looks of it. By just the looks of having one for these dumbass Americans. but they don't benefit. You know what I'm saying? The global South doesn't benefit from war. They never have, they never will, because they are in control of no shit like that. They never wanted to use power like that. China never wanted to use the power of their nukes. You know what I'm saying? They use soft power. They use, you know what I'm saying, friendships and build infrastructure, et cetera, because that is what's going to, you know, help them in the long run. They're looking at long-term goals. We're looking at short-term goals. We're looking at how to make the most profit out of it. And that's why, you know, that's why people in the South, like, that's why the leaders of the South, like, yeah, fuck that, you know, because this shit don't benefit nobody.
Yeah, Ron, I have another story that's going to be near the end of this. We have African leaders that have essentially renounced the Ukrainian peace proposal, that essentially calling for peace in Ukraine. Africa and Lula's had enough. I don't know how much you've been following this, but Zelensky and
no, Lula, I heard everything. I can hear everything.
They are beefing. They are openly beefing. Meanwhile, compare that to how every Western leader has greeted Zelensky. Have you guys seen the embarrassing meetings between Boris Johnson, Emmanuel Macron, and Zelensky? They groveling over Zelensky. Meanwhile, Lula's sunning this motherfucker to the point where Zelensky is ghosting him in meetings. Look at this. And this is what Lula was complaining about. Brazil Lula says meeting fell through because Zelensky was late. And now Lula is very upset about this. Running through a few headlines here. Brazil's Lula upset at not meeting with Ukraine's Zelensky at G7. So there was many liberals that was like, man, why won't Lula meet with Zelensky? He needed to meet with Zelensky to hear from his side. CJ, remember the statement we did weeks ago when Morning Joe was like, why won't Lula just and these people just hear Zelensky out? Have a meeting with them. So Lula spoke the truth, called out Zelensky out for his unwillingness to have peace. So then Zelensky, being the child that he is, the diva that he is, then decides to ghost Lula at the G7. And Lula is not happy about it.
That's weak.
Weak. Because the one leader that is not groveling at the feet of Zelensky, he's too scared to meet. And liberals, predictably, after celebrating him being Bolsonaro, because they know Bolsonaro as the anti-COVID guy, as the Trump friend. So they kind of forgot who Lula was because of that. So remember, we was confused as shit. You had liberals like, yeah, Bolsonaro's got down. Lula won. I'm like, do you guys know who you're cheering for? You guys know? So now they realize like who they actually was on cheering for over Bolsonaro. Now there's a liberal reaction to Lula's recent statements, and there's quite a few of these on Twitter if you're interested. On the geopolitical stage, Lula is acting like a clown. Look what this guy Paul says. The quote unquote anti-fascist who lays in bed with Ukrainian fascists, right? He said on the geopolitical stage, Lula is acting like a clown. He's making the most naked attempt to turn Brazil into a semi-colony of China.
Clowns.
Clown ass shit, son.
Clowns.
So Lula looking out for his best country's interests and expanding BRICS, wanting a Latin American only currency as he advocated for, that makes him a China colony?
That's what they mad about. That's what the fuck they mad about. They mad at him for working with China so openly and passionately and not being, you know what I'm saying, apologetic about it, you know, and not gobbling up that fucking war propaganda. Because, dude, what are you going to say to him? What is Zelensky going to say? Oh, we need weapons. We need Brazil to send us weapons. We need money. We need this. Like, hold on, bro. No, you don't need none of that. You need to stop your people from dying, man. Like, let's be real. There is nothing, like, besides other troops, besides American troops, which is already underground, but I mean, by the hundreds of thousands, the only way that we can really put it, push back on what Russia is doing is by sending our own troops in, because this war is about to be wrapped the fuck up really soon if they don't push more people into the meat grinder. Because I don't know if you guys have seen those maps or have been paying attention to the war, but man, it's not looking good for Ukraine. I don't think F-16 or whatever the fuck guys, whatever, because you said this about the tanks. They gave you the tanks, you failed. Now they in Russia, hands. You're gonna give them the jets next? What the fuck? So Lula's looking out for his best interest. He thinking as a leader, and like, no, I'm not getting into this shit because that shit'll get my people killed. Get my, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't trying to have no blood on my hands. We need to find a way to all work together. We all live on this earth together. That's the best way. Yeah. But that shit don't make money. It make money in the long run, probably like 10 to 20 years from now, but you ain't about to get no 200, you know what I'm saying, billion from a country that you know, put some peace.
This is the last part of my story. Then CJ, I don't know if you have another short story you want to do. I have one more short one, but I can always hold off if you have another story you want to cover.
I don't have a story, but there's the Twitter beef that I put on there.
Oh yeah, you can do that story next. Yeah, you can do that story next. That can be a quick fun one to end on. This is what you was talking about, Rome. This is why I mentioned as well. It's only the U.S. cuck nation like Japan and Europe that America essentially colonized. They tried to shift Europe's energy dependence from Russia, and they did by force by being a terrorist state, bombing the Nord Stream pipeline, engaging political pressure. So they got Europe cucked. There are a lot of people who are upset at Moody in India, even though the United States has been friendly with Moody. Especially under Trump and Obama, they were very friendly with each other. But now India was like, you guys are out of your fucking mind. If you think we got 1 billion people, you guys think we're gonna sacrifice our economy because of your stupid war with Russia? Moody said, fuck off. We still fuck with Russia. So their relationship with India was strained on it because of that. You guys see the relationship with Lula becoming more strained because of this. So remember when liberals said that Donald Trump was going to destabilize the United States relationship with our allies? It was actually Joe Biden. Now you have a lot of African leaders that renounce in the West. African leaders seek to persuade Russia, Ukraine to cease hostilities. First is cessation of hostilities. Second is a framework for lasting peace. South African President spokesman Vincent Mawagwe said. And they are not doing this thing that the NATO left do where Zelensky is off limit. They directly criticize him for not wanting war. You have the Egyptian president here who called for peace. So you have pretty much the African people, many of the African leaders that I wish we could have the left in our country that essentially say the same thing.
Dude, like I'm not even going to cap, you know, some of these African leaders are some bullshitters, whatever the fuck. They got some flaws, like a motherfucker, right?
For sure.
But if they, you know what I'm saying, with all their flaws, if they can look down at us, then that is telling us something. And like I said, none of these countries benefit from war because none of them have a fucking leg or a foot in the motherfucker, right? None of them have arm deals or no fucking contracts or contractors, private armies, et cetera, in it. So they don't benefit. If China helped us find peace in the Middle East, y'all, I wonder how that conversation went because there was a lot of money made in those wars during the Middle East. And if China and Africa and all these countries can sit down with the Middle East and bring peace to these countries and actually show them that there's a better way that we can all make money together or whatever the fuck their thing was, you know, it's crazy. That was a real blowback. That was a real blowback to America, to the U.S., because we was really dependent on a lot of those people hating each other. We needed them to do regime changes on themselves, regime changes or ethnic cleansing on themselves in order to gain more power, in order to gain more money, or access to oil and land, whatever the fuck we was looking at. But there's nothing that the U.S. can offer these countries besides a bomb on their land, on their people. There's nothing else, you know what I'm saying? Like, we wrapping it up here, you know? But they're going crazy. Like I had explained before, they're losing the power that they had to kill Gaddafi and get away with it. Like, that is some real power to kill a world leader, to kill the president, and just no repercussions. You're losing that power to other world powers, to other superpowers in the world, And like we see what China does to these people. China still hang bankers, man. Imagine if they had the power to.
Then they said it was kidnapped. Then the Western media said it was kidnapped. Like China go after the billionaires and people who commit financial crimes, and then Western media write stories like, "Oh my God, they kidnapping Chinese citizens." No, they prosecuted the banker. But go ahead, Rome.
I just want to say, imagine like the world is getting together against us, and imagine we actually having power over us and can prosecute a person like Obama, a person like Hillary Clinton, and they actually have to answer for those crimes. These people are scared out of their mind because they're losing that power, and they're gonna bomb every fucking thing that they can to try to keep that, because they know they have nothing else to offer. They have nothing to offer besides fucking bombs and free labor. Like, man, they don't even do for their people. So how in the fuck can you bring a deal to Ukraine? How the fuck can you bring democracy to Ukraine when your people are gerrymandering and redline? You know, 1 in 10 black people can't even fucking vote. How can you bring democracy to another country? So it's all bullshit, and they just want to keep their power. But I don't see it. I don't see it happening. In the next 25 years, we're gonna see a real change, especially with all these superpowers coming up. And I can't wait. I hope I live to see it.